Welcome to the Calder Farmstead.
Now the Ice Hawks back out to center in transition. Carlson with Quenneville 2-on-1. Right when Carlson comes, Quenneville scores!
Here's a chance for Carrick. Fighting scores! Off the face-off! Up in Zeminger. Pulled back to Werenski. Has it. Shoots one. Bounces off a man. 5 seconds left. Werenski. Another jam on the shot. Turning and firing. They go! Scores! They score! Now they catch each other and they both go right over the top. Matching rights to one another. McDermott gets the helmet off of Cassie.
And now, with 9 minutes gone in overtime, the Bears breaking out right side with Bear. Looks like cutting to the net. Bear will score!
And here are your hosts, Cece and Sean.
Hello and greetings from the mile-high city of Denver, Colorado.
And Denver, Colorado.
Oh, hey, it's only fair. Welcome to the Calder Farmstead Podcast, episode number 52 for Friday, October 15th, 2021. If you're hoping for a podcast featuring a detailed description of 1600s cotton farming in the Casa Grande region of Arizona, we are not going to be much help. This is an American League Hockey podcast. My name is CC Hockley, the AHL editor of Full Press Hockey.
And I'm Sean O'Brien from StatsTrack, the AHL's only league-wide analytics guy.
And as always, we thank you for tuning in with us.
If you're new to hearing CC and I talk about hockey, we're going to preview some of the teams in the AHL for the upcoming 21-22 season. We both watch a lot of games. We're going to talk about what we see when we watch the film, as well as use some stats to help break it down. If that's new to you, you might want to head over to our podcast feed or YouTube channel, wherever you're listening to us from, and check out episode 0. It's a short primer on some of the stats we're going to be talking about, as well as how we view what's important on the ice. So if you're newer to some of the more advanced hockey stats terms like the point shares model, or newer hockey terms like controlled zone entries, go check that out, so you better be able to pick up what we're putting down. It's not that nerdy or technical. It's only 20 minutes, and let's be honest, you wasted 20 minutes today watching Jamie Costa's uncanny Robin Williams clip again and again. You'll never get that time back, so why not next time spend a little more time talking hockey with us?
Oh yes, it's time to cover the AHL. Oh yes, all right, yes. That's my best Robin Williams. That's all I got.
Very not terrible.
Very
I can't
not
do impressions at all, so.
I'll take not terrible. All right, well, today we are going to finish up the Pacific Division in the AHL. Actually, we're not finishing it up. This is the second trifecta that we're doing. I guess I'm wishing that we were finished because we've got a couple of days of recording that we're going to have to burn the midnight oil for. But no, this is the second set of 3 because the Pacific Division had to go and have 9 teams this season. Yeah, it just keeps getting bigger. Anyway, so Henderson Silver Knights, Colorado Eagles, and as you could probably tell by Sean's jersey selection tonight, the Tucson Roadrunners, who is the AHL affiliate of the Arizona Coyotes, as you probably gathered. So let's get right to it. Enough of the intro. Let's start with the Knights. Henderson Silver Knights, that is, not the Vegas Golden Knights. Their head coach, Manny Viveros, second season coaching the club. 2021 record was 25-3-0-1. That's a .654 percentage, and I think that may be a typo because that math doesn't add up. So, Sean, if you want to, if you wouldn't mind checking on that, I don't think that's the correct record. But first out of 7 teams in the Pacific Division with a divisional playoff runner-up, they were defeated by the Bakersfield Condors in the one and only division to play in a postseason format last year. Affiliations for 21-22 are Vegas and Fort Wayne in the ECHL. That has not changed. Game scheduled, as is the case for the totality of the Pacific Division, it is 68. So, Sean, did you get an answer on that record?
Working on it right now. It looks like their record from last season was 25-13-0-1.
I was wondering if there was a misplaced one. You literally forgot to carry the 1. No, I'm just kidding. Actually, that was me. That was me filling in that stats capsule. So I forgot to carry the 1. I will point the finger back at myself. Anyway, let's talk additions. Let's talk subtractions. And first and foremost, Sven Berchi over from the Vancouver Canucks organization. Alan Quine from Bakersfield, Ben Thompson, Derek Pouliot, coming over from Lehigh Valley, and subtractions. Cody Glass, Danny O'Regan, Dylan Secura, some top forwards heading out. Nick Holden, Jake McLaughlin, Ryan Murphy, ooh, that hurts, Jimmy Schultz, and goaltender Oscar Dansk. So a lot of guys heading out the door, but we'll talk about the ones that are staying put. And last but not least, Thomas Yurko. He's played 3 games for Slovakia in international play, qualifying for the Olympics, but he's still a free agent. He hasn't signed anywhere as of yet. So there's that. Well, like I said, let's talk about the guys that are staying put. First and foremost, we have the forwards. Gage Quinney. Start with him. Going from the ECHL and Wheeling for his rookie year to Wilkes-Barre Scranton to the Chicago Wolves for 2 years, and now entering his second year for Henderson. Quinney went from a point per game pace with the Nailers to a point per game player with the Silver Knights in a span of 5 seasons. That's some solid growth there. That's 5 seasons. It's a bit of time, but anyway, he's versatile in his deployment, being able to be at center and the wing. Definitely a go-to scorer used for creating offense for those around him at the AHL level, but fits in as more of a role player at the NHL level. He'll need to become more reliable in his offensive skill set in order to stick up with Vegas or any other NHL team that may utilize his services in the future. His consistency at every level of play is a reflection of adapting to the pace of play as he moves up the ranks, as if his point per game, intro didn't give away. Quinney has always had soft hands and a good hockey IQ, but he continues to work on his conditioning and skating ability as the years go on. The Quinney vintage is great. Like a fine wine, he just keeps getting better with age. With Glass, O'Regan, and Secura leaving Henderson, like I mentioned earlier, don't be surprised to see Quinney in the top 6 while securing at least a power play 1 spot on special teams. Next up, we've got Alan Quine. Quine is just 2 seasons removed from having a top 5 finish in points per game, which was 1.21. Not a bad clip at all. That was with a minimum of 25 games played to kind of, put it in perspective a little bit. He had 14 goals, 32 assists for 46 total points in 32 games played with Stockton that year. Playing only 7 games last year with 3 assists accrued, Quine is looking to bounce back into a top-tier playmaking production, the same that he had with the Heat just a couple years ago. His skating is above par and shows tenacity when it comes to improving his skills. A proven special teams guy on both the power play and penalty kill, Quine's also a low risk when it comes to logging PIMs himself, averaging about 1 2-minute minor every 4 games. Not too shabby. At the highest level, he's capable but not excellent in the bottom 6. At the AHL level, he's a no-brainer for a top 6 forward role. Next up, we've got Jack Dugan. Dugan proved himself as one of the most prolific passers in college during his days at Providence College. His rookie campaign for Henderson, 23 assists in 37 games, showed that shallow playmaking curve Dugan had from the NCAA to the AHL, which is, as we've mentioned many times on this podcast, often a hard jump to make. Dugan protects the puck well. He's got physical prowess and can create plays in the most complex of circumstances. His skating stride is just okay, as it contains a bit of a shuffle, and his acceleration from 0 is just average. His puck handling skills on the move and ability to maintain possession through contact are both above average as well. He keeps it simple when driving into the O zone, which is gain the zone, turn, and coast until his trailer arrives. If the trailer hasn't caught up or is covered, Dugan continues down the boards, overpowers his defender, and passes it into the slot. And while this strategy paid off in spades in college, it's become a little bit predictable in the pros. He also leans over his stick, making him more susceptible to bobbling the puck and, of course, turnovers. He could stand to be more aggressive in the middle and also has a hard time setting his feet when receiving passes. Nevertheless, with the aforementioned exodus of top forwards from Henderson this offseason, Dugan will more than likely play a top 6 forward. He'll likely be a top 6 forward, rather, and at least on the first or second unit power play. Next up, we've got Pavel Dorofeyev. One of the bigger surprises coming out of the desert last season, Dorofeyev finished 5th on the Silver Knights in goals with 9 scores in 24 games played. Consensus on his upside seems to be divided, though. Some see the potential there in his skill set, while others scratch their heads at kind of the bust element that they sense in his game. Pretty well all parties agree that the kid's got great hands and that his 6'1", 175-pound frame is primed for the strength and conditioning coach as a pet project. His compete level has also been drawn into question. Aside from an in-stride wrister he utilized last season, Dorofeyev tends to have the post up in front of the net and hope for a deflection philosophy when it comes to goal scoring. In spite of his rather spindly frame, Dorofeyev can still weave his way through opponents in the middle of the ice. The previously mentioned soft hands also make him a strong scoring threat on the cycle, on the rush, and one-on-one. He doesn't scan plays on defense particularly well, but he is still involved in the defense and not just a pylon out there. And even if brief flashes of brilliance in his skating ability, even with them, he'll need to maintain some consistency to stick at the bottom 6 level on the AHL and a top 6 level in the AHL rather. Dorofeyev will likely get some time as a middle 6-4 role with the Silver Knights, likely taking on a special teams role for the second power play unit. All right, let's talk Sven Berchi. Willing the puck into the back of the net and manufacturing goals are two phrases that come up regarding Sven Berchi. A creative forward with a determination to score, the just-turned 29-year-old played his first full season in the AHL last year without seeing any time at the NHL level. That's the first time that's happened since he made his debut for Calgary in 2011-12. Kind of hard to believe that, but Berchi has above average offensive instincts and puck skills, skating smoothly while navigating high traffic areas. And, big shocker here, both his shooting and playmaking abilities are equal at the NHL and AHL levels. His inconsistency, though, can bite him in the rear, but when he's on, he's on. His hockey sense is off the charts, allowing him to be the one to either receive the benefit of potting a goal or setting up the chess pieces on the ice and contributing on the helper, be it a primary or secondary assist. As much as Berchi channels his inner LeVar Ball and speaks those goals into existence, that's my best LeVar Ball, his lack of consistency paired with trying to do too much at times is his Achilles heel. He also needs to play with a bit more physicality and maintain his composure when he gets the body put on him. He straight up tackled a dude for Rochester last year. I watched that clip and then my jaw about hit the floor. I'm like, all right, yeah, maintain your composure. Increased awareness and responsibility on the D end of things wouldn't hurt either. Carve Berchi's name in for a top 6 role in Henderson, as well as penciling him in as a first unit power play guy and a second unit PK role regarding special teams. Moving on to Lucas Elvenes, Swedish prospect Lucas Elvenes made his North American debut with the Chicago Wolves in 1920, tallying 48 points in 67 games and earning an All-Star nod. Last season, he had 24 total points in 37 games. That's a bit of a dip, but hey, the pandemic affected us all in different ways, so I'm feeling generous. I'm going to give him a pass. Elvenes is sneaky, using that trait to handle the puck well through the neutral zone in anticipation of setting up an offensive zone play. He doesn't telegraph his passes, looking off defenders before faking shots or passing the other way. He sees things a lot of other guys on the ice don't see, and that vision combined with his skill set makes him a decent threat 5v5 and on the man advantage. Unfortunately, there is a number of categories that leave you desiring a little bit more from him, and it's not so much where it's a huge detriment. Rather, shooter's going to shoot, but Elvenes is not a shooter, so he rarely does, and defenses therefore know how to play him once he enters the zone. He's just an average skater and isn't very effective when it comes to contact, but he doesn't try to intentionally avoid it either. His speed and quickness is simply average as well. Nevertheless, Elvenes' high hockey IQ helps him overcome a multitude of hockey sins. He knows what he's good at and what he isn't good at, and that's what makes him a top 6 forward option and a first unit power play choice for the Silver Knights this season. Lastly, we have Reed Duke, and Sir Duke is a pretty standard forward that's been with the Vegas organization since their genesis back in 2017. In fact, he was the very first player to sign with the Golden Knights in their brief history. He'll return to Henderson this season on a 1-year AHL deal. Reed Duke is a decent two-way center. Duke can produce offense in a bottom 6 AHL role, as well as make a dent on the second power play unit. By nature, he's the aggressive type and isn't shy to put the body on when given the opportunity. And at 6'4", 192 pounds, it isn't too much of a no-placed effort. Nevertheless, his offensive skill set underwhelms, and he doesn't have too many dynamic qualities on offense that create scoring chances. Again, Duke's your run-of-the-mill AHLer. He'll be good for I'd say 35-point pace should he stay healthy for the duration of this season. All right, those are some of the forwards we're highlighting from Henderson. Let's talk defense. Sean, you have the floor, my friend.
Well, first and foremost, editor's note here. Jake Bischoff is still on the IR. So while he will be an impact player when he does get healthy, he's going to be not appearing in this preview right now. Outside of right now when I'm saying that he's not appearing. Let's talk with Derek Pouliot, though. Pittsburgh Penguin legend, Derek Pouliot. Henderson had to look elsewhere after losing defensemen like Holden and Murphy to free agency. Enter Derek Pouliot, unlike enter Sandman. Pouliot isn't superb in his own defensive end, but he's been one of the best puck movers in the AHL for a few seasons now. His skating ability is also above average, with his playmaking abilities helping him to top 5 spot regarding assists for blue liners in 1920. Simply put, Pouliot is living his best life on the ice when the puck is on his stick. His acquisition also brings a power play quarterback that the Silver Knights so desperately need this year, as Ryan Murphy walked out the door. With his good offensive skill comes to the work I alluded to in the defensive end. He's got to keep working on his defensive skills in order to crack an NHL roster on a full-time basis. In the meantime, look for Pouliot to be a top defensive pairing while at even strength and in his best place at the top of the key on the power play. Caden Korzak only got into 11 games for the Silver Knights last year, so we didn't get to show a lot of what he can do. He's got solid skating and can jump into the rush. He makes a good first pass out of the zone to start the breakouts and transition. He is average at best puck skills and doesn't have the best playmaking vision. Defensively, he uses his skating to kill plays at the blue line and is a reliable penalty killer. He's not the sexiest defenseman on Henderson, but he can get the job done defensively and might chip in some offense here or there. He could realistically play up and down the lineup, but I think somewhere in the bottom 4 is where he's likely to end up unless he can blossom a little bit more on the offensive side of the puck. Connor Corcoran is a right-handed defenseman who played 4 full seasons in the OHL with the Barrie Colts before getting limited action with both Henderson and Fort Wayne. Corcoran underwent off-season surgery and should be ready for Henderson's opening night, which will be the night this comes out. Technically the night we're recording it, Friday, October 15th. Considering to be a defensive defenseman when he started in major juniors, Corcoran has slowly but surely integrated offense into his game. He's also a physical player with above average skating ability, and he doesn't mind putting his body on the line to block shots and puts himself in great defensive positioning when clearing out the crease and getting down and dirty in the corners. He's really good at using his body to get solid body position to box guys out without having to just cross-check them in the lower back 20 times and then look at the ref and be like, is this a penalty yet? Corcoran also has excellent straight line speed and slightly above average mobility. Defensively, his gap control is excellent. He can beat the forecheck with his skating or making a good first pass out of the zone. He makes quick, decisive choices and shows to have a high hockey IQ. Again, there are places in where his offense needs work, but he's cognizant of that and continues to work and improve it. Look for Corcoran on the second or third defensive pairing with a possible second unit power play and PK reps in the near future. Peter Dilibatore doesn't have the sexiest skill sets. He's a defensive defenseman for sure, and as his offensive skills are rather average at best. On a good day, he has average puck skills. In the offensive zone, he typically fires long-range shots and lacks the playmaking vision to really create scoring chances from the blue line. But Dilibatore's best attribute is his skating. He uses it to kill plays at the blue line and get the puck going on the counterattack. In zone, he's an average defender, but he's capable of picking up off-puck assignments and keeping them from being a threat. Those are the defensemen that we wanted to talk about here. So let's move on to the voodoo. We know, the star of the show here. CC, tell me about Logan Thompson.
Logan Thompson. Yes. So we totally undersold Henderson prior to last season, and thus we undersold the eventual Aldedge Baz Bastion Memorial Award winner in Logan Thompson. And for those of you playing along at home, that is the Goaltender of the Year award that the AHL hands out at the end of the season. We here at the Calder Farmstead dubbed him Goalie of the Year, and for good reason. 16, 6-2 in 23 games played with a 1.96 goals against average and a .943 save percentage. Enough said. Thompson made the leap from the ECHL to the AHL look easy this past season in a division loaded with talented forwards. His uber-determined mindset and outstanding athleticism gave him the ability to make extremely difficult saves look pedestrian to the naked eye. Logan no doubt maintains the number 1 spot in Henderson, and should Laurent Brossoit underwhelm as Vegas's number 2 behind Robin Lehner, Thompson will get a well-deserved look for the Golden Knights too. My, what a difference a year makes. how that changes things. Second and final goaltender we're going to be looking at for the Silver Knights is Jiri Patera. Big drop-off from Thompson to Patera, who logged a 2-4-0 record in 7 games played last year with a 3.54 goals against and a .888 save percentage. Last season, Patera seemed to get exposed on left wing shots fairly regularly. Can confirm, watching the film back, even when his 6'2 frame filled the net surprisingly well, that still occurred. His technique needs to be fine-tuned, and his agility in net is slightly below average, but he's got good strength post-to-post, which complements and boasts an aggressiveness in getting out of goal to challenge shooters. If I were Henderson, I'd ride Thompson 75-25 this season until Patera stabilizes, or maybe even 80-20. Depends how much of a load Thompson could handle, my opinion.
All right, let's talk outcomes here, as we've covered all of the skaters that we think are going to be, big factors in Henderson's season. Let's talk best case here. With the reigning best goalie in net, the best case scenario is an easy one to see happening. The roster has talent, and Vegas hasn't been the most keen on playing the Utes in the NHL for extended periods of time, which helps Henderson hit its ceiling. Best case scenario here, 81 points for a 59.56% points percentage, which is a second place divisional finish. Cece, be the Debbie Downer here. Talk bad things to me. What's the worst case scenario?
Womp, 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 womp. Like everyone else in the Pacific, one small slip up of 2 or 3 games, you fall from grace faster than Lindsay Lohan. Ooh, that's pretty quick. Should Logan Thompson need to travel down the strip due to injury, the big edge Henderson has over most of the division suddenly becomes a problem. Should that get coupled with some unfortunate luck and with the rest of the roster, in that case, they finish with 74 points and a 54.41 points percentage and a 6th place divisional finish. And by God, this season, that's still good for a playoff spot.
Get that money.
Get that money. Sean, let's swing the pendulum back to somewhat of a middle ground. Talk about the most likely case. What does the model have to say about it as well?
Most likely case, the model has Henderson projected for 75.16 points for a 55.26 points percentage in a 3rd place finish. And if you're playing along at home, yes, 2 points are basically the difference between their worst case scenario and 6th place and a 3rd place finish. That's how neck and neck the Pacific is. That's quite an improvement after last preseason's projection, where the model hated the Silver Knights, and we ended up having to, give some money to Nevada State College because of it. But I do think that 3rd place finish seems a little question me, but I think the points are right on the money. So I'm going to take the 75 points and let the chips fall where they may in terms of divisional standing. So we're going to call 75 points and a 55.26 points percentage. 3rd place seems high for me for them, but if that's where it falls, that's where it falls.
Very apt comparison there. Chips fall where they may. Henderson, Vegas. Nicely done. Nicely done.
All right, so we're going to take a break here, after which we will get to the Colorado Eagles and Tucson Roadrunners season previews. If you're just here to listen to us talk about the Silver Knights, that's completely fine. Thanks for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from so you get episodes in a timely fashion. Also, check us out on social media. We have a good time. We post memes. We shoot the breeze. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the Calder Farmstead and Twitter at Calder Farmstead. Stay tuned. We will be back after the break. We talk Colorado Eagles.
We discussed the Henderson Silver Knights. Now we're on to the second team of 3 in this episode number 52 of the Calder Farmstead. And it's a team I'm very familiar with, and Sean is too, apparently, since he's in Denver as well, a little further south of where I am, apparently, from what I can tell of the skyline. But let's talk about the Colorado Eagles. We'll head an hour north from Denver, about an hour north, up in Loveland, Colorado. Head coach Greg Cronin signed a 3-year extension, so he's going to be entering his 4th season with the club. 2021 record was a even 500, 15-15, 3-1, 5th place of 7 teams in the Pacific Division last season. Affiliations for 21-22, the Colorado Avalanche, of course, in the NHL, and the Utah Grizzlies continues to be the Grizzlies there in the ECHL. Game scheduled, 68 across the board, Pacific Division. Additions, Stefan Matteau, Dylan Secura, Dalton Smith, Andreas England, Jordan Gross, Rob Hamilton, and Roland McCune from the last Calder Cup champion that was crowned, the Charlotte Checkers. Subtractions, there's quite a few here. Sheldon Dries, Liam O'Brien, Mika Salamaki, TJ Tynan over signing with Los Angeles, Mike Vecchione signing with the Capitals organization, Kyle Burrows, Dries and Burrows over with Vancouver, Dan Renouf back to Detroit, Ian Scheid overseas, Connor Timmins traded to Arizona in the Darcy Kemper trade, and Adam Werner signing with the Calgary Flames organization, likely going to start for Stockton. A lot of those guys ended up on Pacific Division teams as well, which I thought was rather interesting. So Eagles fans, you will be seeing a lot of those guys in Loveland, just in a different sweater, unfortunately, for y'all. Sean, talk forwards to me. Who do the Eagles got to look forward to this season?
Well, one thing's for sure. I don't know why Kiefer Sherwood is not channeling his inner Kiefer Sutherland and wearing number 24. I feel like that would be fun. He didn't get to play a whole lot in the AHL last season, but when he did, he was a game changer. He scored in all but 2 games he played in, with 6 out of his 10 AHL games being multi-point affairs. 10 goals in 10 games is not a sustainable clip, but it's definitely the stuff that first-line forwards are made of. With tenacity on the forecheck and above-average skating, it's no surprise Sherwood generates offense as he does in the AHL. He has good puck skills and decent playmaking vision, but lacks a fine touch on his passes or an ability to thread the needle through tight passing lanes. His compete level is high, and he can always be counted on to bring an increased energy and push the pace. He very much has that top-line grinder mentality that you see from Sidney Crosby, but let's say that that's where the comparison of their skill sets ends. It's still Sidney Crosby. Sherwood is going to miss AHL line mate TJ Tynan this season, but hopefully get some good playmaking chemistry from new acquisition Dylan Secura. More on him later. To conclude, Sherwood is a top-line AHL forward with first-unit power play reps coming his way again this season. His defensive effort is average at best, so we'll probably not see penalty kill time for him. A late season acquisition for the Eagles, Gabriel Fontaine has been rescued from the doldrums of the Hartford Wolfpack and last year's Groundhog Day division. 4 seasons in Connecticut, 4 years without making the postseason. Thankfully, he gets a change of scenery and an expanded playoff for the 24-year-old native of Montreal. Fontaine is a responsible two-way forward that doesn't take a lot of PIMs. Boasting an average hockey IQ, he doesn't make that much of an impact on the score sheet, but isn't a liability on the ice either. He's a good penalty killer and reliable in his own end. Shoulder surgery cut his 19-20 season short, and prolonged time on the Rangers taxi squad limited him to just 4 games played with the Wolfpack last season. Fontaine will want the opportunity to let his offensive side shine a bit more with the Eagles this year. I could see a bottom 6 position 5-on-5 and penalty kill 1 minutes to start the year, but I think he can climb his way up the depth chart because coaches like Greg Cronin love them some defensively responsible guys who don't screw up. Next, we want to talk about Alex Bocage. Did I do good with the French Canadian portion of that?
I believe his family over in Trois-Rivières would be adequately impressed.
Adequate is all I ever strive for.
Sure.
Bocage signed his ELC with the Avs back in May, and it was a bit of a foregone conclusion he was going to become one of the Eagles in October. The 20-year-old has been in a man's body since he was 17 at 6'1", 192 pounds. That combined with his playing style, and you could have the makings of a power forward on your hands. Bocage has a heavy, accurate shot that he puts on the net very often. Once again, shooter's going to shoot. He's extremely deceptive when he shoots as well, using defenders to hide his release point before dragging the puck into position for a shot. He also doesn't just fire the puck high and hope for the best like every beer leaguer I've ever played with. He zones in on the space between the goaltender's limbs, and even when that shot gets blocked, the rebound ends up in a better spot for his teammates. He's developed as a playmaker and protector of the puck in the past season or two, but his main knock is going to be his skating. He has a choppy skating stride that is improved since he was drafted, but he still has some issues with it and doesn't bend at his ankles and knees. And you can also see, too, the rounded back that he displays. So there's a lot of dynamic posture issues with his skating stride. All telltale signs that he relies more on leg day in the gym to power his stride than good mechanics. And if the Eagles and the Avalanche are smart, they will make sure that they find a good outside skating coach to help him work on that so he can be a more efficient skater. If it feels like Martin Count has been around for a long time in the Avs organization, you're not alone. I feel like that too. But he's only 22, entering his third pro season. In a rebound season of sorts, he scored 16 points in 20 games, plus played overseas in Hockey Allsvenskan and in the Czech League. What Count lacks in pure talent, he makes up for with determination and grit. He isn't afraid to use his 6'2" frame to battle along the boards, protect the puck, and do damage down low. His skating and foot speed is just okay. He mainly stays in his own corridor and doesn't have the moves to skate through defenders and turn corners. His shooting is whelming. Not over, not under, but okay. He's never going to be called a sniper, but he can put the puck in the back of the net off the rush and at the net front. In Europe, he seemed to find his niche. Retrieve the puck, drive the middle lane, and be a utility guy for the more talented skaters on the team. His glimpses of puck skills may have earned him another look at the NHL level, but his performance in the AHL will be the indicator of that. I still think he'll remain a third line forward for the Eagles and have a spot on the second power play unit, just because, number one, I think he needs to earn a top six role just a little bit more, as well as there is a pretty sizable crowd in the Eagles' top six, and there are only 6 spots. So somebody's got to be the odd man out. Who will not be the odd man out, though, is likely Dylan Sakura. Sakura is the playmaking forward the Avs tried to replace TJ Tynan with, though let's be completely clear. Tynan is the superior playmaker to Sakura. Don't get me wrong, though. Sakura is still a highly skilled offensive skater and has seen some bottom 6 time in the NHL. He just has consistency problems and lacks that sandpaper that we talked about from guys like Count and even Bocage. His hands are super soft, and he has above average skating talent. His strength and size are a little bit problematic, being 5'11" and weighing 170 pounds. When you pair that with, average-ish skating talent, you can see how he gets pushed to the outside rather easily, as again, he lacks that sandpaper aspect to kind of power through contact and can't threaten defenders to just turn corners on them. So they're able to hold a little bit tighter of a gap and not really give him necessarily all of the respect that you would like him to have. Again, this is a slight downgrade from TJ Tynan, but Sakura will fit probably well next to Sherwood on the top forward line, both at even strength and on the power play one. Hopefully Sherwood's influence can help Sakura's lack of dictating the pace of play balance each other out. Next, we have to talk about Jean-Luc Foudy. Under normal circumstances, Foudy would have been with the OHL Windsor for the 2021 season. However, with the pandemic turning the NHL-CHL agreement on its head, he played all of last season with the Eagles, which is good because Foudy boasted some of the highest grades for skating and handling in the 2020 class. You might as well call him Triple F, Freaky Fast Foudy, or I guess Jimmy Johns. Jimmy John's.
There you go.
Because he gets the top speed, maintains it with very little effort. He is a very natural skater. He is a sneaky good puck carrier too, and using his size to function in tight quarters. He's dynamic as a transition player as well, leading, of course, to scoring chances on the rush and drawing penalties from the opposition as he goes blowing by them. Foudy does have some tooling to do with all of that speed, however. He looks a little erratic when his mental processing and decision-making are trying to catch up to his feet. He finds himself in difficult situations when that occurs, leading to plays breaking down and him making some turnovers that just kind of make you put your head in your hands. He'll be a solid bottom six forward with some power play and penalty kill time until his brain catches up with his body, in which case I think he's going to rocket up the depth chart pretty quickly. Jason Liquid Hot Megna returns to the Colorado organization for his third season in a row, which is his longest tenure with a team since he was with Wilkes-Barre Scranton way back in the day, before like Twitter was even super popular.
Whoa.
Megna has a lot of good skills that make up a well-rounded offensive game, but none that really strike me as great. He has good puck skills and playmaking vision, but he's a better shooter and has found the back of the net wherever his AHL travels have taken him. He seemed spoiled last year with TJ Tynan as he could rely more on finding soft ice and let Tynan find him instead of having to be the puck carrier and be the guy who sets up the offense and dictates the pace. He has a good work ethic on him, but isn't the most defensively responsible and has definitely looked like he's skating harder on the back check than he really is. Megna's a lock for the Eagles' top six and first power play unit, but don't be shocked if he's also the Eagles' captain when he's done with his time up with the Avalanche, which, if memory serves me correctly, and at this point in the night, my memory's a little shaky. I think he got sent down just like the last day or two as the, endless shakeup of roster moves never ends at this level.
I know Landeskog got suspended for 2 games for that hit that he made. And so maybe I'll check on that. I'll let you take on the last forward for the Eagles, and I'll check and see what his status is.
That's very fair. Shane Bauer's calling card has always been his skating speed. He's able to separate from AHL defenders and threaten to turn the corner. Unfortunately, he doesn't use that space he creates because of the respect for speed to produce more, and that's what you were hoping to see last season. I think he has more offensive upside than that, however, as he has a pretty good skill set. His puck skills and playmaking vision are solid, but they're not high-end. He's also an above-average shooter when he can find space. However, he needs to focus more on the details in his off-puck game, as well as adding some higher elements. He uses deception a little bit, but I'd like to see him look off goaltenders a little more, as well as draw defenders to him and have that kind of gravity, and then use that space to find teammates on the rush. Defensively, he's able to apply pressure and force mistakes, but I'd still only call his defensive game above average. I don't think Bowers is going to be a fixture in the top six, as his skills are solid but complementary, and asking him to drive his own line may be asking too much of him at this point in his development.
So Megna did get called up for the Blackhawks game on the 13th, but then he got sent back down to the Eagles on the 14th, Thursday. So there you have it.
There we go.
Not sticking up.
Those are the forwards we wanted to talk about. We could talk about more, but we are trying to keep things at least somewhat concise and not go on forever. If you wanted a Colorado Eagles podcast, we can make recommendations, but for right now, we're just going to talk about the defense. Cece, tell me about the men manning the blue line this season for the Eagles.
Well, let's talk about last year's first-round draft pick for the Avalanche, Justin Barron. So you don't have to ask someone to know if Justin Barron was a first-round draft pick, like I mentioned. His raw skills jump off the page, and he can absolutely fly, which is more impressive as he's not a very small guy. He has a cannon for a shot. He's physically strong and can lay the body with the best of them. All good things, for sure. However, he's still a work in progress when it comes to using those tools effectively and efficiently. See Jean-Luc Foudy and his freaky fast speed. He makes questionable choices when it comes to risky plays and often fires pucks into coverage that have little hope of finding the stick of his teammates. Defensively, he uses his skating to break up rush chances regularly and is physical in his own end. With some steps forward in puck management, he can be a damn good top pairing defenseman, but his game needs a little seasoning to get there. Next up, we have former Charlotte Checkers captain Roland McCune, returning to the AHL after a 1-year Swedish vacation over the SHL. His skating is solid, but the rest of his offensive toolkit is around league average. He has okay puck skills and can make plays, but lacks creativity or the ability to pull defenders to him and open up passing lanes despite good skating. Defensively, as I mentioned before, he's very solid defending his blue line as well as in his own end, and can be relied upon during those close games with a 1-goal lead or on the penalty kill. I think he's probably a top 4 defenseman who can balance a more offensively capable partner. Next, guy that's been with the Avalanche organization for a minute, Jacob McDonald. McDonald is one of the best defensemen in the AHL at generating offense. Most of that is on the back of his stellar hockey IQ and his playmaking vision. He can problem solve under pressure in the offensive zone with the best of them. He's a serious shooting threat as well. His skating, however, isn't great, but it's not terrible either. He has good edge work, but he lacks that burst. Defensively, he's come a long way, but I still wouldn't call him defensively responsible, and he lacks defensive awareness in certain moments. He's also not very physical either. Throw that in there too. Overall, I expect him to be the weapon on offense he was in previous seasons, where he put up video game numbers and ran the power play. Lastly, we have the last restricted free agent from the Avalanche organization this offseason, Dennis Gilbert. Now, Gilbert has shown in past seasons to have high-end skating. He can lead the rush and threaten to turn corners with his speed. However, the rest of his offensive skill set is rather limited. He possesses average at best playmaking vision and puck skills. He also isn't much of a threat as a shooter. Defensively, he's very sound and can be relied on not to make mistakes in his own end. He's kind of the Gabriel Fontaine of the D-Corps, rather, just a responsible guy, doesn't make too many stupid penalties. His skating allows him to defend his blue line very well. He's also physical and downright mean to play against. He's not going to give you much on the score sheet, but a speedy defensive defenseman who can at least get the breakout going and kill penalties is worth a middle pairing shot. All right, so we've covered the forward core and the defensive group, the defenseman group for the Eagles. Sean, talk about that voodoo that you don't do because you're a defenseman as well when you play hockey. But let's talk goaltenders. Let's talk about the 2 goalies that are going to be the pairing, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, as they say in Idaho, for the Colorado Eagles.
So first and foremost, we want to talk about Hunter Mishka, a top 10 netminder in the AHL for the Eagles in 1920. Mishka was rattled at the NHL level with the Avs in 2021, and he had a down year for AHL Colorado because of it. When he's on his game, Mishka can be downright aggressive in net, using his frame to challenge incoming shooters and cut off their angles. His lateral movement helps him cover the lower part of the net fairly well, and he's got the athleticism to make acrobatic plays, but that oftentimes leaves the top part of the goal open when he's sprawled out on the ice. Rebound control has also been a problem with Mishka in the past. However, he's had bigger and more physical defensemen in front of him to kind of help bail him out from those mistakes that he's made. But that's not the strength of the D-Corps this year, it would seem. I still think Mishka is a serviceable AHL starting goaltender, but I would not be counting on him to be cracking the top 10 in goaltending stats. Justus Anund has been a highly touted prospect in a while, although last season is one he is eager to drink away. He tracks the puck very well, moves well, and is for the most part technically sound. However, he lacks that higher-end athleticism and has struggled with tough saves going laterally. This season is going to be a very important one for him, as the shakeup at the top of the Colorado goalie chart means there might be an opening for him next season if he can prove worthy in 21-22, as both of the Avalanche goaltenders don't have a contract with the Avalanche next season. So we talked forwards, defenseman, goaltender. Let's talk outcomes here. But before I pass it off to you to talk about best case scenario, I did want to make one note to listeners of Eagles fans. This team is fast. Almost every player we talked about had at least average skating. They don't have a top 3 forward group or a top 4 defensive core that is slow moving or, a liability defending their blue line or in transition. This is going to be a team that, as you said, Lord willing and the creek don't rise, that can play run and gun with the best of them and use that team speed to be very exciting. Now, Greg Cronin running an exciting team is quite the prospect, but I think that team speed is going to be a big advantage for them. But let's talk outcomes here. CC, let's hear best case scenario first.
And before I tackle the outcome, it's Eustace Anunin. Eustace Anunin. Yes, gotta love those foreign players. And Eustace, we trust. And Eustace for all. There we go. That was it. All right. Best case scenario for the Eagles next year. AHL Colorado rather, looks to have a very competitive roster in the division that's pretty open in the middle, as we talked about with Henderson. With strong steps forward from guys like Kaut and Bowers, plus the reliable contributions of their veterans in Liquid Hot Magna and Kiefer Sherwood, should the voodoo work out for them in net, they could be contenders. They could have been a contender. Best case scenario, 79 points for a 58.09 points percentage and a second place finish in the division. All right, let's go the other side of the spectrum. Sean, break it to me. What's the worst case scenario here?
I do want to mention one thing for those who have been listening to us give the best case scenario for all of these Pacific Division teams. And it's like, wow, it seems like the best anyone can really do is second. We're going to get to that later, and we'll talk about why. But there is a team firmly entrenched at the top of the Pacific Division, and we haven't gotten there yet. But worst case scenario, even if the Utes stall in progress, there appears to be enough here to keep the ship afloat. Even in the worst of times. However, goaltending is always voodoo, and the division has competitive teams in it for the most part. So any slips are going to send them down the standings drastically. Worst case scenario, they finish with 72 points for a 52.94% points percentage and a 7th place divisional finish.
Guess what? Still good for a playoff spot. Oh, it's ridiculous is what it is. Oh, my goodness. All right. Well, you just tackled worst case. I tackled best case earlier. Let's try and find a meeting in the middle here. Let's talk most likely case. So the modal has the Eagles projected for 77.08 points and a 56.68 points percentage for a second place divisional finish. While some of their depth makes me a little nervous, especially in net, I think it's better than other teams in the Pacific, and I'm going to stick with it here and say 77 points. And not every team can get second place in the division, so we'll see how that shakes out.
It's amazing that the difference between what we said, best case and worst case, are separated by 7 points, and it's a difference between 6th and 7th in the division. Yeah, like I said, the middle of this division is wide open, and all of these teams are going to be scrapping for every point.
Hold on to your butts. It's going to be good.
We're going to take a break here, and after the break, we will finally get to the Tucson Roadrunners season preview. If you don't want to be depressed, you can jump off here. I completely understand. If you are just here for the Eagles season preview, thank you for stopping by. Don't forget to subscribe wherever you're listening to us from, so you get episodes in a timely fashion. You don't have to wait for us to, post them on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. Also, check us out on social media. We're on Facebook and Instagram at the Calder Farmstead and Twitter at Calder Farmstead. We will be right back with the Tucson Roadrunners, so stay tuned.
Meet me. All right, the last team in episode number 52 that we will cover out of the Pacific Division is the Tucson Roadrunners. Head coach Jay Verity. Okay, second guessing myself. I'm a little tired. Jay Verity coming back for his third season with the Tucson Roadrunners after serving as an assistant for the Arizona Coyotes in 2021. Their 2021 record was 13-23-0, 0.403 points percentage. Last place, 7th out of 7 teams in the Pacific Division last year. Their affiliation stays the same. Again, Arizona Coyotes in the NHL and the Rapid City Rush up there in South Dakota, don't you know, in the ECHL. Games scheduled, of course, Pacific Division at 68. Last season that will be happening, but got to play the games this year. Let's talk additions. Boko Imama coming over from the Los Angeles Kings in a trade. Liam Kirk, Liam O'Brien. I confused that earlier today. Liam Kirk, British. Liam O'Brien, Sean's long-lost relative. Cole Holtz also came over in that trade from Los Angeles. Yanis Moser also joining the club. Vladislav Kolyachonok. That's right. I've heard that before. Vladislav Kolyachonok. Connor Timmons coming over again from the Avalanche in the trade for Darcy Kemper. Josef Kozhanash coming over from the Barracuda and the San Jose Sharks organization. And Matthias McKelly joining the club as well. Subtractions, you have Michael Bunting, Braden Burke, Jeremy Gregoire, Lane Peterson, Tyler Steenberger, Jordan Schmaltz, Jalen Shemerick, Doyle Somerby, Connor Lecouve, and Nate Soucis. Again, a little more balanced this time than it was for the Eagles, I feel like. And yeah, with all that said, let's talk about the guys that stuck around, both new and existing contracts, or I guess extensions. Hudson Fasching. Fasching probably has got to shake some rust after last season, as he managed to get in only 7 games last year, despite not finding himself on the injury report. That rust definitely manifested in his 2 games in Tucson, as he looked a bit out of sorts. In normal seasons, Fasching was an above average shooter who could make plays as well, but lacked the puck skills and skating to really threaten one-on-one. His off-puck game in the offensive zone is good, and he's good at not getting caught behind the play in transition. However, I don't think of him as being particularly skilled in the defensive zone, as he'd get caught puck watching on occasion. Fasching was usually a stellar middle six scorer, but I think he's going to be asked to do more this season, which may be a heavier lift than he's capable of. We saw that a lot last year, but these are back to normal circumstances, and we'll see if Fasching is up to the challenge. Michael Carcone. Carcone has an interesting season, that's for sure. He scored at an elevated pace that wasn't powered by good luck per se, although there is a note to be made here. He scored 15 goals. 10 of those 15 goals were in 4 games. The other 31 games, he scored 5 goals. Now, it's not to say he doesn't have shooting talent, because he most certainly does. But I think some hot nights powered him over the top as opposed to steady shooting production. He has other offensive skills, but none that really stand out. His puck skills are average-ish, and so is his playmaking vision. Carcone is a decent skater who has the short area burst to be an effective forechecker. Defensively, he's not going to give as much off the puck, as he tends to float a fair amount, which isn't ideal, and probably that's why he's struggled to be a consistent producer on offense. I expect another season of top 6 minutes from him, but I don't know if top 6 production will follow. Again, guys that have to step up like that, we'll see how it turns out. Barrett Hayton. If Barrett Hayton was ever going to pick a season to just put it all together and light the score sheet on fire, like I'm pretty confident that he's capable of, this is that year. Hayton has such a sexy skill set that even in a throwaway year last season, he still managed to shine through in certain moments. He has solid puck skills and good playmaking vision. He can make passes from shooting stances to set up teammates for grade A scoring chances as defenders shift over to block a shot that's just not coming. His shot commands respect because he can hit corners from mid-range, although he doesn't have that heavy velocity that others do. Concerns about Hayton haven't changed over the years. It's the man's skating. He lacks the gear to create the threat of beating defenders wide. I don't think he's ever going to be a defensive star by any means, but he's more capable than what I feel like he's shown on defense, especially last season. All right. Liam Kirk. Wait. I thought you said Liam made it out of Yote's camp. Am I confusing some?
Yeah, cousin Liam.
Here? Oh, then why is he on our preview outline?
Irish Liam made the Yotes. British Liam got assigned to Tucson.
Oh, okay. That makes more sense. My apologies. My bad. I know there's a line of differentiation there, and it's important with Sean because he's not too keen on British folks, which, I am, but regardless. British Liam has good puck skills, playmaking vision, and is a solid shooter. He also does a lot of things well. A lot of little things, rather. His skating speed is an asset, as I've seen him separate from opponents at lower levels in bursts. One thing about Kirk is that he's a worker and is regularly involved in the play in all three zones and has a lot of battle to him. I expect him to be in the middle six for the Roadrunners this season and probably rotate in on special teams. Next up, a returner from last year's squad, Jan Jenik. Yannick's game is one that's changed over the years. He used to be a straight line skater who was an excellent forechecker. While he's still a solid forechecker, he's added more deception to his skating routes. His puck skills have also seen a sizable leap forward, and his serious knee injury doesn't seem to be a problem. We brought that up in last year's preview. We were a little concerned about that, but his skating looks better. And although I don't think he was ever really considered to be fast, I mean, it's impressive that, you have a major surgery like that on your knee and you come out a better skater from it on the other side. Yannick likes to drive the net and do so with the puck often, but has started to see the ice better. And while he's always going to have that element to his game, he can pull up on the perimeter and find trailers to set up. Defensively, I think he's solid, but unspectacular. I'm hoping he gets a better role this year, as Tucson doesn't have a lot of veterans to take top six roles on the team. Again, a recurring theme. All right, Matthias Machelli. McKelly. Yep. There we go. Yes. Matthias McKelly is a gifted playmaker with bordering on great playmaking vision paired with solid puck skills. His shot took steps forward in the last season as well, and he can beat goalies from mid-range. His biggest question has always been his skating and his ability to play with pace. It's improved recently, but still keeps him from being a true weapon on offense. Defensively, he's not that great, but I think a lot of that stems from the fact that he's undersized and lacks a physical mentality more than a lack of defensive skills. He's a sleeper pick for the Roadrunners top six, and by the end of the year, I could see him struggling, though, in his first pro season in North America. Next up, we've got Ben McCartney. Last but definitely not least, Ben McCartney. You won't talk about British people. Let's talk about Ben McCartney. Oh, that was a terrible Paul. Don't mind me. McCartney should be an interesting player for Tucson this season. He's got okay puck skills and playmaking vision, and his shot isn't that spectacular. His value comes as an elite forechecker, and he is a solid net front presence as he fits more into the power forward mold of a player. He can finish in close and get his stick on point shots. He's also going to be involved in every post-whistle scrum while he's on the ice. You got to love it. Defensively, he's solid and can kill penalties. I think he's probably a third liner to start the season, but he could sneak into the top 8. We'll see how his stock rises or falls as the year progresses. So that is the forwards core for the Tucson Roadrunners. Shawnee, let's talk blue liners.
All right, let's start with Cam Dineen. After 136 games in Tucson, I'm not sure his offensive game is ever really going to pop. He's got okay-ish puck skills and playmaking vision and isn't much of a shooter. He's decent at getting shots through traffic, but isn't much of a scoring threat from his shot. He's good at getting transition started and can make a solid first pass out of his own end, but that's about the end of the contributions to the score sheet. Defensively, there's a lot more to like. He's good at defending his blue line and can kill plays in the neutral zone. In zone, he's heavy on puck carriers, but doesn't chase the play. I'm not sure where he falls in the depth chart, given his lack of offense, which you will see as a reoccurring theme when we talk about defenders in Tucson this season. But he could pair with someone more offensive-minded to balance the D out, although I don't know who that would be at this point. Cole Holtz has had his development really stall since he left Happy Valley, which makes me sad because, alumni network and all. His raw skills really aren't that impressive. He's a bit below average in his puck skills and lacks the playmaking vision to find teammates in narrow passing lanes. He's aggressive and activating off his blue line during offensive zone time, but doesn't offer much more of a threat after that. His abilities to defend his blue line and be solid in his own end are commendable, though, as he's an asset as a middle pair defender in that sense. I don't expect much offense from him, but he should be a useful penalty killer in the bottom 4. Giannis Moser's skill set is underwhelming despite solid production in the Swiss League. His best asset is his playmaking vision and hockey IQ, which shows up more in transition than it does in the offensive zone, but his puck skills and shooting talent are all average at best. His skating isn't great, but he's not slow. Defensively, I like his game a lot and can see him being useful on the penalty kill. But like most of the defensemen in Tucson, without Capobianco or Soderstrom on the roster, there's not much offense coming from this group. Last but not least, let's talk about Vladislav Kalichunuk. Kalichunuk's signature skill is his skating, and it's likely that you'll see him pull at least one spin move on some poor forechecker at some point during this season. He's very active in transition and very much likes to lead the rush. He doesn't exactly have stellar puck skills or playmaking vision, and often gets tunnel vision and makes turnovers in the process of trying to make a highlight reel play. But hey, he does try. Defensively, he's gotten better in recent seasons and can cut plays off before they start with his skating ability and a quick stick. He does need to work on puck management as well as refine some of his puck skills, but he is a very entertaining player, so there is at least that going for him. And he's also one of the only defenders on the Tucson blue line this year that I can point to and be like, that guy can make offense happen. Those are the defensemen that are probably going to be the big impact ones, with Capobianco being out and Soderstrom having made the Yotes out of camp. So let's move on and talk Voodoo. Cece, tell me about the new and the old in net for the Tucson Roadrunners this season.
Well, the new in net, Aiden Hill out in Arizona, got traded to San Jose, and over from San Jose, like I mentioned earlier, Arizona and Tucson brought in Yosef Kozhinash. There we go. Those Czech names always throw me for a loop. Now, it's wild to me that Kozhinash was once an AHL All-Star. His star, pun very much intended, has fallen considerably since then, and he's been below average as a starter in the 3 seasons that followed. He's still got high-end athleticism and moves very well in net. However, his technical structure, puck tracking, and ability to read the play has not developed quite as everyone had hoped, and his defense in front of him hasn't been doing him any sort of favors. Perhaps this change of scenery and a new coaching staff can help get his progress back on track, but I am not holding out a ton of faith on that. Next, we got the guy that stayed, Ivan Prosvetov. Prosvetov had a down season last year in the AHL, but the Roadrunners defense did him absolutely no favors. His game is still a work in progress, but I think he's due for a bounce back year this season. He's still got solid athleticism that you don't see in goaltenders that are as big as he is. However, he struggles with puck tracking and let a few too many goals from a distance that had no business being in the net. I have faith that better days are ahead of him, but he needs a solid season to reward that faith, or he might need to find another home next season. That is not a good thing to hear when both your goaltenders end with that kind of that same mentality. Like, oh, hey, change of scenery might do Kozhinash good, but, you know, if he doesn't do well this season, same with Prosvetov. Yeah, exactly. All right, Shawnee. So with a good number of top 6 forwards leaving Tucson and the goaltending situation, like I just mentioned, being a little sus, as the kids say, give me the best outcome for the Tucson Runners in 21-22.
Best case, having heard all the parts of our preview for individuals, you get the sense that there's some decent talent here, which is true. But top to bottom, the roster does not stack up well against the rest of the division. Should Capobianco get healthy and either come back to Tucson or get Soderstrom back to Tucson, along with guys like Liam Kirk and Jan Jenik stepping up, there's some reason to have hope here. Best case scenario, they finish with 74 points for a 53.9% points percentage and a 7th place finish in the division, which is still a playoff spot.
Quote unquote. Yes. Alrighty. We talked best case. Let me be the bearer of bad news. Talk worst case scenario. So the bottom of this roster is currently populated by veteran ECHLers who weren't that good in the ECHL, along with a D-core that lacks offensive upside and a lot of good but not great forwards. So it's not hard to imagine a worst case scenario here where the bottom absolutely falls out completely. And if that's the case, they finish with 63 points for a 46.32% points percentage, and not surprisingly, a last place divisional finish. Hey, guess what, Sean? That means they don't make the playoffs.
But like barely.
Yeah, when you have 9 teams in the Pacific Division and 7 of them are making the postseason, God help us all. All right, Sean, let's bring some balance and equilibrium back to this madness. Let's talk most likely case for Tucson.
The model currently projects them for 65.78 points and a 48.37 points percentage, and obviously a last place divisional finish.
Yeah.
Well, I'm very skeptical of the Roadrunners this season. I think they're at least a little bit better than that. You know, a couple good bounces their way. We could be at least looking at a team that can be challenging if they can find any consistency, where if you were a fan last year and watched some of that, be like, oh yeah, we're going to score 9 goals one night, and then the next night, 1. I think they're a bit better, and I will take the over on the model and say a nice 69 points for a 50.74% points percentage and an eighth place divisional finish, which ain't last.
It ain't last, but you sure as hell ain't making the playoffs.
Yeah, probably not. But
no. Meh.
Not last.
Not last. Hey, you got that going for you, which is nice. Alrighty, well, that is it for episode number 52 of the Calder Farmstead. Thank you for watching and or listening. The Calder Farmstead is part of the Full Press Radio Network. You can listen to this and a number of other great hockey, sports, and sports entertainment programs at www.fullpresscoverage.com. Just click on the podcast drop-down menu in the top right portion of the website. Click there, and brrr, that's the population of the drop-down menu. And enjoy.
If you guys are enjoying the Calder Farmstead, please make sure to subscribe so you get episodes in a timely fashion. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, please feel free to give us a rating and a review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, like the video and comment what you thought of the episode. Doing so helps others find the show, and your reviews help us make it better. You can follow the show on social media at Calder Farmstead on Twitter, at The Calder Farmstead on Instagram and Facebook. Also, big thanks to Adrian Drake, who made our theme music. You can find him on social media at AD_dysfunction. That's DYSFUNCTION. So we can make music for you too. Cece, where can people find you?
Well, I'm back here in Denver. And my name is CC Hockley. You can find me representing Full Press Hockey on Twitter at FPC_AHL and at my personal Twitter handle at CC Hawk. That's SEESEEHAWK. Majority of my tweets are about hockey, but hey, I've got opinions. I'm a holistic human being. Sports, music, the rock band Rush, pro wrestling, you name it. I'm a multifaceted individual. Check out my writing on Full Press Coverage, on the Full Press Coverage Network, rather, at www.fullpresshockey.com. Shawnee, where can the people find you?
I'm Sean O'Brien. You can find me on Twitter at Sean O'Brien81. That's SeanObrien 81. I'm also on an Instagram account that is mostly pictures of my adorable pup Parker. That's at Sean O'Brien _81. You can find all of my stats work, including eventually the 21-22 season model for the AHL, at my Tableau page at bit.ly/data dump and chase, all lowercase, all one word. Cece, take us to the next episode that we have to record.
Oh boy, yes. That will do it for episode number 52 of the Calder Farmstead. For Sean O'Brien, I'm CC Hockley. Thank you all for tuning in. As always, yes.